Hello, and welcome to Conquering Finale. My name is Jason Lafredo, and today we're starting off with a Special Tools investigation. We're going to look at the very first tool in the Special Tools palette, which is the wrench icon, which pulls up the sub-palette for the Special Tools. And we're looking at the very first tool here called the Note Position tool, and it looks like a little quarter note with two arrows going off to the right and left, which is appropriate because that's exactly what this does. It moves the notes left or right. And the thing to do is just have that item selected and then click in any measure to get a bunch of handles. And you can see now I have 4 handles in the second measure above the left hand, and it's fairly simple to use. All you have to do is just grab one of those handles and you can drag left or right and put that note wherever you need to go. In addition to dragging with the mouse, you can actually use the arrow keys as well. Left or right, it will nudge them just by a little bit so that you can fine-tune your positioning there. Or again, just drag. The one thing that you can't do with a note position tool is nudge up or down or drag up or down. Technically, that would be changing the pitch, which is part of the simpler Speedy Entry functionality. So this note position tool is technically just the horizontal position. Now you notice that I do have a handle over the rest, so the note position tool will position rests as well. Technically it's really the entry position tool. Finale considers a note and a rest both entries, so I guess you can consider it like that. It's really the entry position tool, but they call it the note position tool, so either way. And you can move those as in the same way. You can also move multiple notes at the same time, so if you just kind of drag select there, or you can shift select both of these and then you can drag them both or nudge them both as you need to. You can even press Command A to select all of them in the measure and just move them all in parallel like that. So lots of different options about moving multiple entries in the measure. Now once they have these custom positions, it's fairly easy to remove those custom positions. Really the simplest thing to do is just select one of the handles and press the delete key, and you'll see it go back to its original position. You can do that with the rest. You can use the clear key as well on a Mac, and that will do the same thing. Again, you can select multiple ones here, press the delete key, and you'll see those also go back to the original position. So if you actually had them all moved and you Command A, select all, and press delete, they'll all go back to their original positions. One other way to remove the manual positions is to actually right-click one of those handles on something that you've moved, and you will get a contextual menu, and the very first option will be called Remove Manual Adjustments, which will do just that. And you can see that it goes back to its original position. Now, this note position tool is layer specific, so if you have multiple layers in the same measure, if I try to move this note here, you'll see that it will just move the layer 1 note because layer 1 is currently the active layer. If I wanted to move the layer 2 note, I would have to switch to layer 2, and I would get 4 different handles, although they're actually exactly the same in this particular measure. And then I can move that handle, and you'll see that I'll be able to move the layer 2 note. This is really handy if you've got to make some minute adjustments to help offset the layer 2, layer 1 spacing that maybe Finale didn't do quite as well as you would have liked. But it's just important to know that you have to be in the proper layer in order to move the note that you want. Another interesting thing is that Finale considers a chord also in a single entry. So you'll notice when I click in this measure in the piano, there's 4 notes here, but it's actually just 1 entry, so you only get 1 handle. So when you drag this handle, you're actually dragging the entire chord left and right. It's not like you're dragging the individual note heads. We can actually change the individual note heads with the next tool, which is called the Notehead Position tool, which is the next video I'm going to do. So if you're interested in that, stick around for the next one. But the Note Position tool will move the entire entry, which includes the entire chord. One other thing you may have noticed is that as I'm moving these, you'll see the elements that are attached to them get moved as well. So you can see the staccato mark here gets moved as I'm moving the notes or the entry left and right. This will work for lyrics too, so if I actually move this one, you'll see the lyric move left and right as well. Basically anything that can attach to an entry will get moved, and that actually includes things like dynamics. So in this bass part here, if I move this note, you'll see the dynamic actually get shifted over to the left a little bit. You'll notice the chord did not. The chord is actually attached to the beat, not to the entry. So that's why the chord doesn't move, but the dynamic does. Very subtle difference sometimes in Finale whether something's considered attached to the beat or the note. With the Note Position tool, it makes sense that all the things that are attached to the note will move with that note. This includes slurs as well. So if I move this first one, you'll notice that the slur will follow where the note is. Now the note position is unlinkable. So if I were to go into the piano part here and just do some changes here in the note position tool, you'll see that when I move this, it will turn orange, indicating that it is unlinked, which means that I can put this all the way over here, and in the score, it will not have moved. It will still be in its original position. Now, if you right-click to get that contextual menu, you'll have these options that you may be familiar with when dealing with linked parts. You have the unlink in all parts, relink in all parts thing, and they work exactly the same here as they do pretty much everywhere else. So in this instance, now that this is unlinked, I could go ahead and relink in all of the parts, and you'll see that it will turn back to black. And then when I go back to my piano part, that change that I had made in this measure gets undone, and it's now following where the position is in the score. All the things that you can do with the command key. So if I drag without the command key in the part, you'll see it turn orange immediately, meaning that it's been unlinked. But if you hold command while in a part, it will stay black, which means that the score is now following the change that you made to the part. Same thing in the score. If you take that and hold down command, you're unlinking it. You're just moving it in the score, leaving it where it was in the part, and unlinking it at the same time. So that's holding down the command. I believe it's Control in Windows. And of course, we can always just relink in all parts again to turn it black and remove manual adjustments. And we've just reset everything back to the way it should be. Now, interestingly, this tool will work on certain staff styles. So I've got 3 different staff styles here set up in my electric guitar in the first 3 measures. In the slash notation, it won't have any effect. I can click in this measure and you won't ever see any handles. But in the rhythmic notation, where you do actually have rhythms, you can get these handles and you can actually move them. And this works exactly the same way as if you're doing it from any other measure that doesn't have a staff style. So it can be used on rhythmic notation. It cannot be used on 1 or 2 bar repeats or on slash notation. As you can see, I'm clicking in here and there are no handles to be had, but on rhythmic notation, it will actually work. Now, interestingly, the functionality of this note position tool from the special tools also exists in Speedy Entry. So if I go into my Speedy Entry tool and go into my Speedy Entry frame, I can actually click and hold this entry here and drag this note right or left. Now, basically, this is doing the same exact thing as I was just doing with the special tools, dragging this note right or left. And in fact, you can see the handle is now over top of it all the way off to the right, and I can delete to get it reset and everything. So it's actually mirroring that functionality in the Speedy frame. So that's really interesting that you can go in here and just click and drag something to change it. The one difference in Speedy Entry is that you can also move your mouse up and down to change the notes in the same way. So I can click and hold and move the notes up and down to actually change the pitches, which is also useful. However, you'll notice that as I'm doing this, I'm kind of like moving the notes horizontally too, which is kind of undesirable in a lot of ways. So this is a great example of using the shift key to constrain the dragging either right or left or up and down to prevent accidentally moving something in the wrong way. So I'm just going to go here and reset these 2 positions and go back to my Speedy Entry tool. And again, if I just want to move the notes right or left, I'll hold down Shift, and this will prevent me from changing the pitch at all. I actually do this more in reverse, because if I want to change the pitch here, well, let me go back and reset this one more time. If I want to change the pitch in Speedy Entry without changing the horizontal position, I'll hold the Shift key and move up or down, and this prevents me from accidentally offsetting the horizontal placement of that pitch. So this is a great example of using the Shift key to constrain your dragging. In this case, I'm preventing myself from positioning this note left or right. All right, so that's an interesting thing, that in the Speedy Entry tool, you basically have the same functionality as that note position tool just by click and dragging. We do not have that functionality whatsoever anywhere in the Simple Entry tool. We cannot, select a note here and expect to drag it left or right. It simply won't work. I could try and grab it and drag it, and I can drag it up and down, but I cannot drag it left and right no matter what I do. So that is a Speedy Entry exclusive function that's mirroring this functionality of the note position tool in the special tools palette. Now there's another important thing to understand about the note position function here. When you change the note position here, you can notice that you're only changing the position of that one single note. All of the rest of the notes up and down the score are staying exactly where they are. So this note positioning really does have a very specific functionality, and Finale has another functionality that's similar but actually completely different, where you can space the beats in a measure. So with the measure tool selected, you'll always get these two handles in the right corner of each measure, and if you select the bottom handle, you'll get this. Well, you got to do it at the top here. If you select the bottom handle, you'll get these series of handles. I've talked about this extensively in the measure tool, but these handles will actually move the entire beat. So if I move this one here, you'll notice that I'm not just moving a single note, I'm moving the entire note stack. So every single note that exists in this position gets moved, just like that. You can see them moving up and down, which again is completely different than just changing the single note head, where you're only changing that one. So it's really important to know what the difference is and know when you want to use one or the other. More often than not, it's probably better, it's probably more useful to use the beat spacing tool, because generally you want to try and keep all of your notes lined up in the score. It's only for really specific purposes where you've really got to fine-tune some adjustments. Maybe you've got some complicated chordal, contrapuntal situations in your keyboard part that require a little finessing of the spacing. That would be a great use for the note position tool. But more often than not, I think it's way better to use the beat positioning tool so that you can keep everything aligned. Now there's a couple things going on here. So with this beat position tool, I can move these things all over the place. And if I go ahead and respace this measure, it will actually undo that spacing for me. Let me show you that one more time. If I go in here and I'm just going to change this half note or this third beat, I'm going to move it all the way over there. I'm going to click this whole measure and music spacing, and you can see that that will return to normal. So the beat spacing actually does not withstand respacing the measures. What's interesting is that the note spacing will withstand respacing measures. So if I just move this note all the way to the right there and try and respace this measure, Finale is not going to respace that note spacing. So that's another difference, is that the note position will withstand a music respacing, whereas the beat position will not. One other thing that's interesting that's related to grace notes is that grace notes cannot be beat spaced. So if I try to use the beat spacing, this handle here will be the very first beat, but this next handle will actually be the second eighth note. And I don't know if you can see that down there at the piano part. It's actually moving the eighth note and the grace note at the same time, and there's no handle in between that you can change the position of the grace note. Which kind of makes sense, because a grace note really doesn't have a dedicated beat to it, so there's no beat to actually space. But the grace notes can be spaced with the note position tool. So now I can go in here and you'll see that I will get a handle for that grace note. So now we can actually move that grace note closer or farther away from the main note as needed. Interestingly, when you do respace the note position of these grace notes, and you do a respacing of the music here, it does actually destroy that manual position. So that's just an oddity about this. These particular spacings of the grace notes with the note position tool will actually get undone by a music spacing. Now, as I alluded to before, it is possible to change a single note head, but not with the notes position tool. We actually have to use the next one called the Notehead Position tool, which will indeed move a specific note head as you need to. I'm going to talk much more in depth about this in the next lesson. I'm actually going to combine that one with the Note Shape tool, because there is some cross functionality and some similarities between these next two tools. So I will talk about those in the next video. Now, as far as mass operations are concerned, again, these special tools are really designed to be done one measure at a time, one note at a time, one entry at a time, whatever. There is no function in the utilities change for the note or entry spacing here. There is something you can do with note heads, but it has nothing to do with the spacing. So there really isn't a great way to change these on MOS, except for one plugin from the JW set called JW Change. There is a note entry section here, and there is a horizontal position option here, which is really handy. And you can set a value here. So if I wanted to do 0.1 for this whole selection here, you can see that all of those notes will get moved over 0.1 inches. There's also a clear position, which is really, really handy, particularly if you're doing some stuff with importing XMLs that may have gotten all out of whack. Your note positions may be out of whack. This is a great tool just to select all, choose this clear position and apply, and it will undo all of those crazy spacings for you. So that's actually a really handy tool as well. What's really neat is that this JW Change plugin has a bunch of different filters, so you can do all kinds of stuff where if you just wanted to move the grace notes, you can select all and choose grace note and move it over a certain value. If you just generally want your grace notes to be a little bit closer, that's a great thing to do. You can do, it's like almost 100 different filters, durations, types of entries, durations or attachments, layers. There's a whole bunch of things that you can do with these filters, which is really quite amazing in this JW Change plugin. So if you're looking for a way to mass change the horizontal positions, this really is the only tool that's available for this, and it is a super powerful one. So if you need that, this JW plugin is totally worth it. All right, so I've said a lot about it, but that's pretty much all I can say about the note position tool in Finale. So there you go. So the next video, like I said, I'm going to talk about the note head position tool as well as the note shape tool. They are somewhat related in a few ways, so it made sense to combine them into one video, and that will be next. All right, so once again, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you soon on the next video.